Ahsoka Part 4 Fallen Jedi. Stranded on Cedos, Huyang begins work to repair the damaged T6, while Ahsoka confronts Sabine about the implications of reaching Thrawn and Ezra, giving Sabine some pause since she remains determined to find her friend no matter what. It also seems to me that Ahsoka isn't 100% sure that she made the right decision to bring Sabine on this delicate mission, especially since she's very emotionally invested in it, and well, if you think about it, had Ahsoka decided to, I don't know, get Luke Skywalker to join her instead of Sabine, then I'm pretty sure she wouldn't be having these thoughts now and be doing a lot less worrying. Moments later, Huyang is attacked by an HK droid and attempts to warn Ahsoka and Sabine that Morgan's goons have located them. And sure, while Huyang isn't a droid programmed or made with the intention for hand-to-hand combat, I gotta say he can definitely throw down when it comes to it, especially against an HK droid. Ahsoka and Sabine come out to save him and take out the mercenaries relatively quickly and easily, as you'd expect. I notably liked how Sabine goes into Mando mode for this fight, using only her gear while wearing the helmet. We've seen this plenty of times on Rebels, but this is the first time in live action, and yeah, it looks pretty cool to see. That said, it did make me realize that she's not wearing her jetpack, which is a bit strange, or perhaps she didn't even bring it with her on this dangerous trip. Which, if that's the case, makes it all the more odd, as, come on, even the armorer in Mando Season 3 who literally never wore her jetpack, but the one time she went on a dangerous mission, yeah, she wore it. So I have no idea what's going on in Sabine's head right here by deciding against that, but either way, with their location compromised, Ahsoka and Sabine know that they can't stay put any longer and need to stop Morgan from acquiring the coordinates to Thrawn. But before they go, Huyang asks them one request: to stay together, because, you know, teamwork makes the dream work. The two of them are soon after intercepted in the forest by Shin and Marrok, whose main goal is to simply delay them as long as possible. Unsurprisingly, Ahsoka takes on Marrok, and like with every other Inquisitor that she's faced in the past, she toys with him for a bit and then quickly ends it, in a similar fashion to how Obi-Wan killed Maul on Tatooine in Rebels in one swift strike. Meanwhile, Sabine faces off with Shin in a rematch, and while I'm glad Sabine starts the fight in Mando mode, that's basically what I'm gonna call it. She either goes into Mando mode or wannabe Jedi mode. But I didn't like how she goes about it without any thought or plan and ends up making the mistake by getting too close to Shin, which is definitely the worst thing you can do against a lightsaber user with only blasters. Just ask Jango Fett. Eventually, Sabine is beat and is forced to pull out Ezra's lightsaber to go into wannabe Jedi mode to go toe-to-toe with Shin, which does deliver a bit of a better duel than their first encounter. Meanwhile, back at the New Republic fleet, Hera decides to take a different approach after realizing that the bureaucratic way just isn't working, which sees her pretty much pull off her very own Rogue One, New Republic style. She grabs the Ghost, Jason, and a New Republic X-Wing squadron, and they proceed to go on an unauthorized mission. And yeah, it was nice and all to see Carson lead the squadron under Hera, although, I don't know about you, but I was kinda left puzzled with the serious lack of Zeb here. As to me, it makes no sense that Carson is part of Hera's rogue group, but yet Zeb, who's also a New Republic pilot too, mind you, is not there, and that's bizarre in my opinion. Because out of anyone in the New Republic who would understand Hera's plight and sympathize with her the most in this situation would be none other than Zeb, who sees Hera, Sabine, and Ezra as his family. So not having him here is a completely missed opportunity here by Dave, which is, again, strange to say. Also, it was odd to have Hera take Jason with her to such a dangerous unknown situation like this. Like, I get it, I get why they did it and all, but it's still not a smart decision when you really think about it. But I suppose Hera probably doesn't have to worry about Child Services taking away Jason from her after being a New Republic general and whatnot. Back on Cedos, after Ahsoka kills Marrok, we see a cloud of dark green mist erupt from his wound, following by a piercing shriek, which makes me think that he perhaps was an Inquisitor at some point that was killed and then resurrected by Night Sister magic to serve under Morgan. Which, if that's the case, then that would very much explain why there was a random Imperial Inquisitor running around post Return of the Jedi that somehow survived Luke Skywalker in the series. Cool, I'm happy with that explanation. And with Marrok now dead, Ahsoka leaves Sabine to fend for herself with Shin while she continues on alone, which already shows that Ahsoka has no problem ignoring Huyang's request for her to stick together with Sabine. Because, come on, work with me here. Had Ahsoka ran to help Sabine right there and then, she would have helped Sabine easily kill Shin in a matter of seconds, as Shin needed some time to overwhelm Sabine in a 1v1, but Shin against both Sabine and Ahsoka? Yeah, she'd be dead quick. And then when Ahsoka confronts Balin, she'd have Sabine with her right there to make things easier. Not to mention, they'd still have enough time to do it too, as we later see, but I mean, sure, I get why story-wise they went with splitting them up. Although I'm not gonna say it was a smart decision by Ahsoka here in the slightest, as by leaving Sabine alone with Shin, who could have killed her the first time had Ahsoka not intervened, then yeah, she's really taking a big gamble here by doing this. And as expected, Shin does end up besting Sabine, to which we get this great scene of Sabine attempting to use a force push and failing at it, with Shin mocking her for being a pretend wannabe Jedi with no force powers as the cherry topping. Because yeah, at the end of the day, that's technically what she is. Now, I do like Sabine's response in hurting Shin a bit with the wrist rocket after she says, "You have no power," and her basically being like, "Yeah, no Jedi power, Shin, but I've got Mando power." I thought that was pretty clever, but let's be honest, it didn't really do much to any damage to Shin, and yet it scares her off. Like, seriously? I mean, I get Shin herself as a wannabe ace pilot and all, but the fact that she turns out to be a total wimp here because of a small wrist rocket that barely does anything? It pretty much makes me lose more and more respect for this Shin character. Elsewhere, Ahsoka reaches the map and confronts Balin on her own as the two engage in a duel, which undoubtedly this becomes the best lightsaber duel we've seen in this series to date. I really like Balin's fighting form as it somewhat echoes that of a Vader but without the limitations of his suit, to where he makes the duel seem effortless, but also as if his lightsaber was incredibly heavy, yet he still manages to pull off some nice moves with finesse and grace. Although I was a tiny bit disappointed that Ahsoka's little chat with Balin before the duel was so short and she didn't ask him, "Okay, you knew about Anakin like literally every other Jedi, big whoop. But now tell me this, what have you been doing this entire time during the rise and fall of the Empire and still survived?" As that's a question I still want answered, as it leaves me curious and puzzled. Shin soon after arrives and Ahsoka is surprised by this, thinking the worst had likely happened with Sabine, which, Ahsoka, what did you expect would happen by leaving a wannabe Jedi who still doesn't have the basics down up against a more experienced Padawan that actually has force powers? Real facepalm moment right here, but Regardless, Sabine does show up not long after, but by then Ahsoka is hurt from getting burnt by the map, and is then sent plummeting into the ocean by Balin as Sabine watches in horror. In response to this, Sabine then grabs the map and holds it at gunpoint. But Balin is still cool as a cucumber right here as he manipulates her into handing it back over to him. Which I suppose either by some new force power that he has that he can read minds, or that he simply did his homework on her to know Sabine's whole life story. Not sure. But he does promise her that she will be kept safe and see Ezra again, as that is his word. And yeah, Balin certainly does have an honor code and stays to his word, as we see him after command Shin to stop force choking Sabine, which is kind of unexpected. Balin is certainly a complex character, and before I didn't really know much to what make of him. But this episode certainly shows this, especially as he has the most lines and work to do here thus far. And that's a good thing, as he pretty much steals every scene that he's in. As for Shin, well, too bad. She had her opportunities to kill Sabine already long before. Like, there's still no reason that she didn't kill Sabine in the forest after failing to finish her off the first time on Lothal. And this scene does confirm that Shin definitely wants Sabine dead, just, again, too bad for her that she's awful at her job. After Thrawn's location is finally revealed, Balin proceeds to destroy the map, making sure no one will follow Morgan and friends to the new galaxy as he boards the Eye of Sion with Shin and Sabine. It's also at this moment that the New Republic squadron led by Hera arrives at Cedos and tries to stop the Eye of Sion from jumping into hyperspace, but fails to do so, resulting in a pretty gnarly scene that even has a fighter or two die. The episode then caps off with Ahsoka awakening in the world between worlds, where she is seemingly reunited with her former master, Anakin Skywalker, which just, whoa, is wild. While of course I, like everyone else, have questions as to how and why Ahsoka found herself randomly in the world between worlds. Like, can she just teleport into it now as some sort of superpower? No idea. But I'm mostly curious about Anakin here, as mainly whether he's truly Anakin's Force ghost, or perhaps someone or something that maybe is playing with Ahsoka's mind here. And I say this as Anakin is missing his trademark facial scar and the eerie Vader music is playing in the background and all. So I don't know, that kinda has to mean something. And also, is it just me or anyone else getting Joker vibes from Anakin's face here? As, in my opinion, the CGI department kinda messed up on the de-aging here, making him look weird. But that's probably just me, or if it's not and this is intentional and this is not really Anakin, then perfect. If that's the case, then I'm all for it. Overall, I really did like this episode. While not the length that we want or expect it to be, it was still longer than last week, great. And there was non-stop action here, with most of it, like the Balin and Ahsoka duel, being really good. Sure, there are still problems, and I had my nitpicks, like always, here and there, but looking at the episode overall, I think it's the strongest we've had thus far in Ahsoka, and made for a strong mid-season point episode. Not to mention that we're done with the whole MacGuffin subplot already, and we'll likely see Thrawn and maybe Ezra too in next week's episode. Which, yeah, that's a lot to be excited for in Ahsoka. If anything, the ride on this roller coaster is just getting started. And that was my take on this episode of Ahsoka. Let me know what you all thought about the episode in the comments below. And if you haven't already, remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one.